en español, pero en inglés, porque mi español está muy bueno. First, I would like to thank Vera and Jenny Ruales for inviting me here at the conference, and also at Quito and Ecuador. We already did some tourism. We went to Bindo, and yesterday we went to the Guayasang Museum, so very nice, and I hope I can return one day back to Quito. So I will talk to you today about the food waste biorefinery concept. And at Futureweek we look at food waste and food byproducts through valorization. We try to valorize them through characterization, extraction, and bioconversion. And at Future, a lot of people are working on this food waste biorefinery concept. So you see all my colleagues there. So a short overview of my presentation. So I'll start with an introduction of my institute. I will talk to you about the biorefinery concept for food byproducts. So using characterization, extraction, bioconversion, using enzyme technology, fermentation. I will say shortly something about sustainability metrics, and I would like to give also a perspective from the industry. So Vito is located in Belgium. This is your map of Europe. So you see Spain, France, and actually Belgium is in the north of France. And when we talk about Belgium at a food conference, they know Belgium about these things. So you have chocolates, fries, don't like to call them French fries, Belgian fries, and beer. But actually, these products, and you know this better than I do, so the chocolate is made out of cacao. So the cacao beans are in there, but you have a lot of possible byproducts that are produced to make this product. Also here you have the potato peels, and here you have the brewer's waste to make some beer. So very shortly, Vito, in a nutshell. So we are actually not a food lab. We are a research institute working about sustainability and the environment. And we have 5 focus domains. So we work about green chemistry, sustainable chemistry, and the other domains are energy, materials, land use, and health. And we are about 760 people with a lot of nationalities, and also about 50 PhD students are currently working at Vito to obtain their PhD. So at Vito, I'm in the department of separation and conversion technology. So we like to integrate those two technologies, those two processes. So we often work around membrane technology, electroseparation, extraction. On the other side, we also have a lot of experience on conversion technology. This can be chemical, electrochemical, biological. And also we look at batch processes, but also to continuous processes. And also very important at Vito, so we also look to the economics of our processes. And at Vito we work with green chemistry. Since we also have a large link, other colleagues are working with energy and materials. And we also like to scale up our processes. So we don't stay only in the lab, we also go to the pilot scale, to the semi-industrial scale. So food waste. So in general, we work around biomass. Food waste or food byproducts is just one of the examples that we use. And food waste, they are the end product of various food processing industries that have not been recycled or used for other purposes. And they are the non-product flows of raw materials whose economic value is less than the cost of collection and recovery. So they are discarded as waste. So people use food waste, food byproducts nowadays for animal feed, for incineration, but this is rather costly, inefficiently. It causes some environmental concerns, and a lot of valuable compounds that are in the food byproducts, they are lost. So this is even a better picture. So we like to valorize our food byproducts towards high added value components. So the agro and food industry, they create a lot of waste byproducts. Nowadays they are used for bioenergy or for feed. But these byproducts contain or They still contain a lot of interesting compounds, like carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and the minor compounds, like carotenoids, polyphenols, alkaloids. And the idea is first to valorize the byproducts towards one or more of these products before the rest product still can be used for bioenergy or heat. So this is another picture. So this is a picture of the food supply chain. So we have some lipids there, pectin, ketosone, sugar, starch. This can be converted towards biosurfactants, for example, biofuels, alcohols, the lots, so towards chemicals. And you can also make further processing, so you can go from food waste or food byproducts to chemicals to further specialty chemicals with a lot of applications. So this is the biorefinery approach of food byproducts. So at Vito, we start from the byproducts. The first step is then a characterization. We want to know what is in the byproduct before we can do anything with it. Also, a very important first step is mechanical separation. So you separate your food byproducts into a juice and fiber fraction. Since biomass, as you know, contains a lot of water, so this is the first very economical step to do that. And from these processes, you can extract added value components. And then finally, these products can be used for enzymatic hydrolysis, for fermentation, and then you end up with a residue, and this can still be used for anaerobic digestion, for bioenergy, for microbial fuel cells, whatever. And then here we see the applications, so you can have directly from these high-value components, you can have specialty chemicals like polyphenols, essential oils, aromas, and so on. Commodity chemicals from fermentation, for example, platform molecules, biopolymers, biosurfactants, and finally the residue can go to feed or energy. And here I added the economic part, so the value of these products. So these specialty chemicals, they have a high value, and the lower you go, the value drops, but still feed and energy, they are still worth some money. So the first step in this biorefinery concept is first to characterize the biomass on a molecular level. So it contains lipids, proteins, carbohydrates, but also these valuable components like polyphenols, carotenoids. They are health promoting and antioxidant properties often. These are some examples that also Dr. Santos yesterday showed. But these products are often not taken from food byproducts. So they are not valorized from byproducts. The reason is that the composition of these byproducts, of these side streams, is often not known. And then, so what we do, and well, this is not new of course, so we prepare samples. We also have to be careful with label components because they can be degraded. Instrumental analysis. We like to use a generic extraction technology and generic instrumental analysis. And finally, we have an identification and quantification of our components. The problem often with identification and quantification is that, especially for a lot of minor compounds, there is a scarcity of reference standards. And then we compare them with databases, and we identify and also quantify them. This is here an example of one of my colleagues at Vito, of Sebastian Beetby. He was a PhD student of us. So he worked with chili pepper, and he used one extraction technology, really focusing on the apolar components. And also one analytical technology, so the technology that also Dr. Van showed this morning, so a combination of liquid chromatography and mass spectroscopy. So here you see some carotenoids, for example, so they are identified there. With the same protocol, so for extraction and analysis, he identified also the phytosterols, the fat-soluble vitamins, the catechinoids, the mo and galactodiacylglycerols, the sphingolipids, and also D and P-acylglycerols. So with one technology, one extraction technique, with one analytical technique, you could identify all these products. And when you know that they are in your product, in your biomass, or in your byproduct, we can start thinking of what you can do with them. So then the second step. So at Vito we also have a lot of experience on extraction of added value components like carotenoids, polyphenols and so on. So the first step that we often use is the mechanical separation into a juice and a fiber fraction, because it is very cost efficient to get rid of your water. Also green solvents should be used to replace organic solvents like supercritical CO2, extraction of enzymes. Tomorrow I will give a more elaborated lecture on green extraction technology. And also we can go for energy efficient technologies like microwaves and ultrasounds. So these are new technologies for extraction, but I will discuss them tomorrow more in detail. This is an example of an orange peel waste product. So we have orange, contains 50% juice and 50% waste. Now this orange peel, so it has 20% of dry matter. Based on this dry matter, so the weight percentage on dry weight basis, so they contain a lot of flavonoids, pectins, cellulose, and actually, so the people in the UK, so Lucy Veldgraaf and her colleagues, they valorized this waste orange peel. So they started with a microwave treatment, and they separated this waste product, byproduct, from the juice industry to create orange juice. So they obtained 4 fractions, so a cellulose fraction, an oil fraction, pectins, and sugars. And then here you see the applications. So from sugar, of course, you can ferment it into a bioethanol. Pectins, due to their gel properties, they are often used in the food industry. Bio-oils you can use for also for biofuels and other chemicals, and celluloses can be used for adsorption, for example. And by this study, so they showed that about 6% of their orange peels was transformed into valuable products, and they are now developing this further together with the industry. So this is actually a nice example where you start from a waste product, a byproduct, towards other interesting stuff, towards the extraction and the use of the spectrum out of these orange peels is known for many years, but they developed with one process, they could separate this into 4 different fractions. Then a third step, so also at Vito, a lot of people are working with enzymes and with fermentation. And like I said in the beginning, so we like to combine extraction, separation, and conversion technology. So we use enzymes for hydrolysis, so this is conversion, bioconversion, followed by a fractionation with different separation techniques, like membranes, for example. Now when you use membrane, or when you use enzymes in a batch mode, it's simple and easy, but the costs are relatively high due to the fact that we have to use enzymes, and also labor costs can be high. The disadvantages from this is that catalytic activity of your enzymes is lost, and that you can have a variability of product quality between your batches. This is an example, for example, from whey, cheese whey. You can use enzymes to convert them into galactose-polysaccharides. This is here an example of one of our PhD students. So she's working on an enzymatic membrane reactor. So she combines separation through the membrane with conversion with the enzymes. On the left side you have the feed, and on the right side you have the permeate, and in the middle you have the membrane. So the enzymes, they can be attached to these membranes, they can also be in the feed. But a big advantage of this process is that you can reuse your enzymes, you can remove your enzyme inhibiting hydrolysates, you can produce hydrolysates with a uniform mass, you don't need to inactivate your enzymes, so they will not be lost, and you can operate this in batch, but also continuously. So this is a big advantage for the industry. So this is the case study. So they start from sugar beet pulp, and they, on the left side, they have a mix of pectins, pectin oligosaccharides. They convert them using enzymes into tailor-made oligosaccharides, and they separate them using membranes with a certain molecular weight count. So this is what they do. So they use enzymes for the hydrolysis combined with ultrafiltration membranes. Then they fractionate these products using a cascade of different membranes. So they use membranes with a molecular weight cut of 400 Dalton, 600, 1,000, and 5,000 Daltons. So starting from this sugar beet pulp, you get different fractions, and then now they are looking also to the biotic, the prebiotic, and activity and the biofunctionality. This here also one of the graphs. So this is here hydrolysate fractionated over the membranes. So this is the total hydrolysate, and here they showed that they got a different type of fractions, with different molecular weights. Another step, fourth step, is that you also can convert your biomass, your byproducts of this food waste using fermentation. So you use your food waste or your food byproducts as a renewable resource for the production of chemicals using microorganisms. This can be done directly or after pretreatment, and you can generate a lot of products out of that. So this can be commodity chemicals, specialty chemicals. So starting from food byproducts, you go to chemicals. And often fermentation and downstream processing, they need to be optimized. So this here, a difficult picture, but what it actually shows. So on the left, you can start from the biomass feedstock, for example, food byproducts. Contains starch, cellulose, lignin, oils, proteins. You can use these products, for example, the starch or the cellulose. You can hydrolyze them into sugars, and these sugars can be used as a feedstock for fermentation, and then you can make C2, C3, C4, C5, C6 chemicals. And then these chemicals can be further processed towards specialty chemicals that can be used in the industry. So again here, starting from food byproducts, you can go to chemicals using fermentation technology. This is here a nice example that has been published by Lynn and her co-workers. So they start from bakery waste, so muffins and bread. They add fungi, and then these fungi, they transform this bakery waste into sugars. And these sugars are used as a feedstock for fermentation. And succinic acid is formed, so it's a platform molecule for a chemical industry. And from this succinic acid, they combine it also with other chemicals, and they obtained bioplastics out of it. So again, same process. They start from food byproducts, food waste, and they went to bioplastics. This is here another example with specialty chemicals. So. Published by Nathalie Bernhard from the University of Ghent. So they used leek. So leek is a well-known vegetable in Europe. I don't know how well-known it is here in Ecuador, but it looked like this. So we have the white shaft and the green leaves. Now actually people want to use this vegetable only for this white shaft, and they don't care about this green leaves anymore. So just throw it away. And Nathalie, she looked at spontaneous fermentation, and using these green leaves, and they analyzed the bioactive components, so polyphenols and others. And they showed that by fermentation, they increased the antioxidant capacity, they increased the indigenous polyphenolic compounds, and they also produced new polyphenolic compounds that were not present in the fresh food. So by starting from a food byproduct, they showed an increase of activity of bioactive components, like polyphenols, for example. This is another example. So an example of biosurfactants, sophrolipids. So sophrolipid is actually a combination of a fatty acid and glucose. So the fatty acid is combined with glucose. You have this glucolipid, and a second glucose molecule is added, and you get the sophrolipids. And this is done by the yeast. The yeast is called Candida, Pompicola, or whatever. But the interesting part is, so you can start from oilseeds to extract fatty acids. You can start from sugarcane or starch or maize, but you can also start from food byproducts. So, for example, by frying the well-known Belgian fries, you get a byproduct, fat. This can be used for these fatty acids. And also here, we're doing a picture of sugarcane, but you can also start from liquid cellulose that you convert into glucose, and then you combine the fatty acid with the glucose, and you got these phospholipids, which are biosurfactants, so biodegradable surfactants. This is also one of the new projects at our institute, so it's called Heat Insect. And there we start also from food byproducts, food waste, and we use insects to convert them into fine chemicals. So the first step is organic waste. So the company that's involved in this, they go to the supermarket, they get some waste, byproducts from the fruit and the vegetables they have that they are not sold anymore. And then they feed them to insects, the black soldier fly. And this black soldier fly, it produces eggs and larvae. And these larvae, they are biorefined by Vito into fats, proteins, and chitin. And chitin is actually a polymer. And also at Vito, we look at the chemical conversion of this chitin to another product, chitosan. And this chitosan, it has nice antimicrobial properties, and it's used by other people at university. They do organic chemistry with it, and they make products based on chitosan, so based on a biomolecule to be used for their antimicrobial properties. So this is here an overview of the project. So this is here the black soldier fly. This is the chitosan. So it's actually a polymer of glucosamine. And organic chemists, I'm not an organic chemist, but they like hydroxide and they like NH2, because you can do a lot of nice organic chemistry with this. And then they produce chemicals that have antimicrobial properties, and they are used on ropes or net that are put in the sea to fish, for example, as antifouling. So nowadays it's been used based on zinc, but they want to start from a biomolecule. And also, for example, you can coat, for example, the seeds of maize against stress using this molecule. We're now developing this together with the University of Leuven and the University of Ghent. So in this process, go back, so we start from food byproducts and we go to fine chemicals, which are worth a lot of money. Now, something else. Something about sustainability metrics. Because also at Vito, we think that researchers and research, you can do a lot. You can do technologically, you can do a lot. But if you look to the economics of your process, it's often very difficult and often very difficult to compete with well-known chemical processes. And here in this example, so we looked to one butanol. So C4, an alcohol. And actually, nowadays it's made like a lot of chemicals. It's still made from oil, from the petrochemistry. But there's also a green route starting from biomass. This biomass, this can be everything, but again, this can also be food byproducts or byproducts from agriculture, for example. And then we compared these two processes, so the black process starting from oil and the green process starting from biomass. We compared four metrics, so we have the energy efficiency, so they're indicated by the energy wire. You have the material efficiency, which is indicated by the green circular axis. You have the economics, and you have the land use. And this will be published next year in the Catalyst today. So very short, because I can tell a lot about this study. But very short, this petrochemical process, so it's the oxosynthesis. This has been developed for 100 years in petrochemistry. So they start from propylene. Propylene is coming from oil, so this is C3. They add CO using catalyst, so they got a C4 butylaldehyde. And then after a catalytic hydrogenation, they get butanol, 90%, also isobutanol 10%. This is the black process, the petrochemical process. You can also have the bio-based process. So this is a fermentation, and you start from glucose. Glucose is taken from maize starch, and it's fermented. Now this fermentation is actually well known. This is known for already several tens of years. It produces a combination of three solvents, acetone, butanol, and ethanol. Now for this process we were only only interested in butanol. And then the product was recovered by distillation and with a certain yield of the fermentation. So we estimated yield at 0.4 grams solvent mix per gram of glucose. So without going into detail, these are the results of the 4 metrics that we selected. So material efficiency, energy efficiency or energy input, land use, and costs. And here are the numbers for the petrochemical process, and here are the numbers for the biomass process. And what you can see is this petrochemical process is very efficient. So it has an efficiency, material efficiency of 90%. Compared to the bioprocess, only 27 to 42%. Energy input for the petro process is low, 69 gigajoule per ton of butanol, compared to the bio-based process, 160. So the energy efficiency of the petro process is actually much higher. Has higher efficiency, lower energy input, but a higher efficiency. And for the land use, we said petrochemical processes, we said this doesn't use land. For bio-based processes, we said, okay, or we calculated, and we have got a land use of 0.3 hectares per ton. This is because you have to breed, you have to grow your crops to produce your glucose that can be used as fermentation feedstock. And then the total costs were also calculated, so this was the most difficult part. And we estimated this for the petrochemical process at about 915 euros per ton, and the bio-based process at 1,004. The conclusion here is that for this process, if you want to make 1 butanol from a petro process compared to a bio process, the petro process is actually preferable to the bio-based process. And the reason is actually very simple. This petro process, this has been developed over more than 100 years of petrochemistry, so a bio process will always be very difficult to compete with this well-established petro process. But that's on the second point, biomass or agro or food waste, food byproducts, that's actually the only resource for the future. So oil will still be around for 50, 100 years, I don't know, nobody knows, I think. But at some point in the future, it will be gone. And that's why bio-based processes, they are worth thinking of. And also what a lot of researchers in the world are doing, they want to increase, of course, the efficiency for the biobutanol process using genetics or developing other downstream processing to better extract only, for example, the butanol from this solvent mixture. So then the numbers will probably be better also for the bioprocess. So, and then one final, or some slides about the industrial perspective for successful valorization of food byproducts. Food waste or food byproducts, they can be used as a renewable resource. And the good thing about this, okay, there is a lot to do to decrease the number of food waste or food byproducts in Europe and in the world. But for certain products, there will always be food waste. For example, these orange peels, they are created from when you press oranges into juice. These peels, nobody eats them, so this will always be there. Another interesting point from industry, or what we learned from industry, is that the market is very important. So if you extract high-value components from a food byproduct, and if you want to use it in another food or feed product, it has to be accepted by the market. So they look at taste, also the value, the price, the food matrix. We have some rules that you have to live by. So we have the novel food regulation. So not everything that is produced biologically can be used as a food or feed. So there are some rules. Also the supply chain is very important. So it's important when you want to make an industrial economical process. You need byproducts at a high volume, at a certain location. This location can be, for example, a factory where you produce orange juice. You have the orange peel at one location. You can start producing pectins out of it. It will be more difficult when you have different farmers that produce a small part of the food byproducts. And then you have to collect these byproducts and you have to transport them to a central location, which is difficult for industry. And also very important, when the byproducts can be produced year-round, this will be a big advantage. The problem with biomass is that it's only produced certain time of the year during harvest, then you get a lot of byproduct or a lot of food, it creates a lot of byproducts, but it's only for a few months a year. You can think of stabilizing these byproducts, for example, by drying, but that's then the third point. When you can avoid drying of your biomass, of your byproducts, this will be a big advantage, because drying in industry costs really a lot of money. It's one of the most expensive processes in industry. So these are some examples of industries, food industries, that are actually working very well. So first you have the milk industry, and it's used, milk is used to make cheese, for example, and it's used to make dairy products. The interesting thing about this milk is it's a daily product and it's fresh. There are some issues with cheese weight, for example. You can convert them using enzymes. People are solving this problem, but this is a nice example actually of the milk industry. That's why it's working so well. You have, for example, soy. It used to be produced especially for the oil, but of course protein is also very important, even more important maybe than the oils. The supply chain is based on dry seeds, and also this industry based on the soil works very well. You have some other industries, so the juicing industry, starting from apple or citrus. So you make the juice, but you have your byproduct, the apple pomace or the citrus peels. They can be used to extract pectins, so this is a well-established industry. For example, Cargill, they make lots of tons of pectins a year, starting from citrus. And the supply chain is based on dried apple pomace and dried citrus peels. So they dry the product to stabilize the product, otherwise they cannot produce pectins the year round. That's important for them, drying, although it costs a lot of money. But this pectin is also worth a lot of money. So it's balanced. Another example is the grain industry. So in Europe, we ferment and we produce bioethanol, starting from grains. So for example, Brazil, they start from sugarcane, but in Europe, it's starting from grains. And the supply chain is based on the dry seed of these grains, and it works very well. Now, there are some issues with this DDGS, so dry distilled grains with solubles. And actually, a few weeks ago, I was talking to somebody from the feed industry, and he was working in a company, and actually the bioethanol was their first product. And DDGS was their byproduct. But he was actually trying to turn the industry around, that the DDGS, which contains a lot of proteins for the feed industry, he wants to make the DDGS the first product, and the bioethanol actually the co-product. So that would be less important than the DGS in the future. Another example is for example, green leaves. For example, sugar beets. So you have the beet taken from the field. What's left on the field are the green leaves. Farmers in Belgium and in Europe, they just leave it. They don't care about it. But this green leaves contains proteins, and the most important protein is ribisco. It's the most important one. The problem here, the supply chain is a seasonal one, so sugar beets are only harvested for a few months a year. Nowadays, the green leaves are left on the field, so this has two advantages. First, you have to think about organic carbon in your soil. And second, the machines, so the industrial equipment to take out the beets, the sugar beets from the field, they are built that their green leaves are just left there. So if you want to harvest also these green leaves from the field, you have to think of a new mechanical equipment, which again costs money and has some investment costs with it. Also the example of the sugar beet itself. So for the sugar industry, it's also a seasonal product. There are some issues with the pulp. You can use this pulp, sugar beet pulp for pectins, but actually the industry, they are still working with citrus and apple. And actually the sugar beet pulp is the third product to produce pectins. And here are some other examples. For example, the potato starch for potato, but it's more or less a seasonal product. There are some proteins still left in the byproducts, and also alkaloids. So they have also interesting antimicrobial properties. And for example, pomace from the olive industry or the wine industry, they contain a lot of polyphenols that is nowadays being used by companies. It's a seasonal supply chain also, which is a rather disadvantage, and also there are some issues with water. So, to end, there's actually a very simple conclusion. we say waste does not exist, food waste does not exist, and I don't like to call it waste, I would like to call it food byproducts. But there's still a long way to go for industrial implementation, and this is why we, the researchers, and also you, the future people from industry and also research, the students, there is a lot of work to do for this industrial implementation. Some acknowledgements. So we developed this presentation together with a lot of colleagues at FITO. I would also like to thank two European projects, RESTFood and Mosham. The Renew, which is the Resource Innovation Network for European Waste, where we are contributing to a cost section from Europe. This company, Provalor, which gave valuable information for the industrial perspective. This is this Renew. Well, I left this slide in because why are we participating? Because today's waste companies are tomorrow's raw material suppliers. And with this, I would like to thank you for your attention. Muchas gracias.